You focus on how blessed you are, that's going to breed more blessings. If you focus on how disadvantaged you are, I promise you, you will find greater disadvantage.
You know, Kris, there's this old Jewish proverb that I think would speak to you a little bit at your space in life. And it goes like this. I felt sorry for myself because I had no shoes until I met the man with no feet. What do you think about that?
Well, I have both my feet, so I'm feeling pretty blessed.
Right. It's this idea that there's always going to be someone that has more than you, and there's always going to be people that have less than you.
Dude, I'm not going to lie. Like when I got on this entire kick of manifest my own destiny, build, create wealth, there was a part of me that felt so unleashed that just said, oh my gosh, I'm going to tear it up. I'm going to have it all. I'm going to create it all. And I found myself privately being jealous of the people that I met that were further along.
Yeah.
And I don't think it was like healthy. Part of it was motivating, like, oh my gosh, I'm looking up to this person. And part of it was a little bit maybe toxic. Like I felt sick inside, like, why aren't I there yet? And I would twist my own guts and knots over wanting to be somewhere I wasn't yet.
Yeah. And I've heard you speak to this before, this idea of being constantly hungry, but also constantly satisfied.
Yeah.
And it's almost a contradiction.
Dude, it was a paradox that I had to fall in love with, to actually unknot my guts and to learn that I have to find a way to be completely hungry for the next level, but also completely satiated and satisfied. Like I've been feasting at the biggest and best table. So I got to find, it's a weird thing. It's like, I got to be totally chill and good with where I'm at, and yet wake up tomorrow ready to freaking climb that mountain and go for that next level.
Well, we have a guest with us here today that you'll introduce in just a second, but I think Matt is going to help us understand another way of approaching this idea of being totally satisfied and yet still hungry.
You know, I was at this event in Florida a couple of weeks ago where I actually met Matt for the very first time. And he got up there and I'm like, oh, cool. Like this is an entrepreneurs conference. It's business people connecting and real estate people. Like he's going to be sharing like next level tactics on how to build and create wealth. And I should have known better because it was a Tim Mai event. And Tim leads with crazy big heart.
Yeah.
And this guy gets up there who's had all of this success. He's done over 1,000 real estate deals. He has his equity portfolio of 12 different companies that he's acquired just in the last year. He owns this incredible family mastermind of business owners, real estate people, tech companies that come together and do all this cool stuff. And he's obviously like greatly respected and revered in his space. And what does he do? He gets up and he talks about gratitude. And I'm like, how is this even relevant to this conference? And
what is this guy talking about?
And within minutes, I got sucked into the science of greater levels of achievement and winning and personal satisfaction with a different mindset. And so with that, Matt Andrews, brother, so glad to have you here today.
Great to be here, man. Thank you so much. Yeah. That was awesome meeting you there. That was a powerful event. And I could say the same thing about what you shared. I mean, it was amazing. For me, the reason I shared that is because the last couple of years, especially the pandemic and so much going on in our world, people really trying to keep their head in the right space, or people not able to keep their head in the right space. You and I know that it's all about keeping our head in a productive space, right? Yeah. Whether that is in our family life or growing businesses, the energy that we have, what we're able to bring to a situation, the mental bandwidth that we're able to channel, it really comes from our attitude, our outlook. And so the more we realize that, the more we can channel that. And the way that I have been able to channel that in my life is by maintaining an appreciation for what I have. When I have an appreciation, or when I have gratitude, right, which is what I talked about that day, that keeps me in that space where I've got energy. I've got more physical energy. I've got more mental energy when I am constantly appreciative. Now, does that mean I'm always in gratitude? No, it doesn't. I'm challenged with this, actually. That's the reason I talked about it.
So I don't have my new shoes, but at least I got my feet.
Right.
This is big because I remember years prior, Tony Robbins had prepared me for quote unquote winter. He said, winter is the best of the 4 seasons because it's when the market crashes, massive problems present themselves, people lose their heads, people are not mentally prepared.
Chaos.
Companies are going to die. It's going to be blood in the streets. And I was kind of curious. I'm like, how is this the best season? And he basically said the biggest problems create the opportunity for the biggest solutions. Like the 2008 Great Recession, you got Airbnb that emerged, who within a matter of years was bigger than Marriott without owning a single piece of real estate, or Uber emerged without owning a single taxi. And all of a sudden, people reinvented themselves based on the problems created at a higher level. And so I love what you're talking about because keeping yourself in the right mental space, I think is always important. Yeah. But literally, either we're going through the worst economic this, or inflation's out of that, or me and my spouse are fighting. And It's like, I've got my own personal garbage going on. And if I'm not in the right headspace, and I just know this personally for me, I got no rocket fuel. I'm impotent to create what I want when I'm not happy even in my own personal home life.
Yeah.
Shoot, if I miss the gym in the morning, I'm like off my A game.
Right. Yeah.
Right. So speak to this attitude of what it means to be in a space of appreciation and gratitude. You dropped such mega nuggets at that conference. Like, break it down a little bit.
Yeah. So, for me, it's all my energy comes from being in that space, right? So I looked at in my life, I know I'm at my best when I have appreciation, when I'm centered on the good things that are going on in my life, because that helps me perceive the opportunities the correct way. All right. Now, I was telling you, I had Vanilla Ice out at one of our events recently, right?
Yes.
He told a great story, not even a story, just an illustration. He said, there's opportunities everywhere, but most people look through them like it's a windshield, right? You just look through it like glass, right there. You just look right through it. The difference between seeing opportunities and not seeing opportunities is perception. Yep. Right. And being open to and receiving opportunities. I don't mean in a woo-woo way. I don't mean like, the universe is going to come to you. All you got to do is think about it or whatever. Although there is an element of that. It is literally being able to see things you wouldn't see if you weren't in a good headspace. If you're negative, if you're down, if your energy's gone, you're not seeing possibilities, you're seeing closed doors. But when you're in the right space, when you're appreciative, when you're in gratitude, all the doors are open, all the windows are open, all the possibilities are open, right?
Well, and I've heard it said that opportunities most often come disguised as problems. Mm-hmm. And like you mentioned, Uber
chaos
and Airbnb, they actually took a problem and said, great, if we're the ones to solve it, then it's an opportunity, not a problem.
Absolutely. And how we react to those problems, right, is determined by that perspective. That perspective, right? So it's an opportunity to level up and grow, every challenge is, or it's an opportunity to shrivel and die, essentially, right? And every leap that I've made has been tied, whether it's business or life, it's been tied to relationships I've had, people that have helped me level up because they're ahead of me, or I've seen an example, or I've been inspired by them, or it's been opportunities I've seen with my own eyes because I've had my mind in that space to be open to them. So I think so much of what I do now is how do I manufacture that, right? Mm-hmm. Like brass tacks, how do you actually make that happen, right? You don't just think, okay, I'm going to be appreciative and you start being appreciative. You have to have some kind of formula. So real quickly, here's mine, right? Happens for me, it happens in the morning. Doesn't have to happen in the morning, but for me, I spend time every morning in gratitude. And what that looks like to me is I usually think about it in terms of relationships, right? Because I value relationships really more than anything. So I think about every morning one relationship, and I focus on that relationship during just a 10-minute period of prayer, meditation, gratitude, whatever you want to call it. I think about one person during that 10 minutes that I'm appreciative for, one relationship that I'm appreciative for, what I have and what that brings to my life because I have that relationship. It could be my wife, which is one of my, which is my absolute top relationship. It could be my in-laws. It could be somebody
your in-laws are on that list.
I have great.
You've been spending some serious time in gratitude.
Oh, I'm super blessed. No, I actually do have amazing in-laws. So not cliche for me. It could be the person bagging my grocery. It could be, the developmentally disabled person that helped me with my groceries that day. And I am appreciative for that person. I think about that person that day, right? So that sets up my whole day. It puts me in this thought process of, okay, you know what? There are great things going on in your life. There are great relationships in your life. That is the most important thing, more important than any good thing or bad thing that you're going to come across today, is that relationship. And so it sets the tone for the day. Go ahead.
Something I love about what you're talking about. Years ago, I read a book, Anatomy of Peace, put out that basically talks about how we objectify humans. We see humans as obstacles, people that are in our way, their means to ends. And I started thinking, I hope that the world is moving to this notion where we don't want to objectify people sexually or for their bodies or for whatever reasons, but we objectify people in different ways. Well, you're a nuisance to me, you're irritating to me, or you're keeping me from actually getting here. I've got road rage because my life is more valuable than yours, or you cut me off. And it's like, well, at the end of the day, like, how do you get to a space where you can really see people as other human beings with real dreams, real fears, real hopes, real desires? And I think gratitude is an incredible way. I love this idea of meeting people. And I have a different phrase on part of how I get there. I call it God's eyes, which is, how can you see this person as a brother or sister that is just as valuable, because we're all priceless, and it shifts the way I treat people. And for me, that makes it a lot easier. When I get frustrated or angry, upset, and I'm losing my head, it's like, wait a second. Am I dealing with a thing or a person? Most of the time it's a person, not a thing. Mm-hmm. It's not a circumstance, it's people. Mm-hmm. And the moment I start objectifying people or treating them as objects, I've lost that gratitude. I've lost that ability to hold space that this person is just as valuable as I am.
Yeah, I think that's right. And what you're talking about is what we talked about in another video that we made one time, which was relational equity versus transactional equity, right? Relational equity, building value in people and relationships, that's the long term, right? And that's also the secret to financial success too.
Well, that's actually, that's called Carson for me in my world. Yeah. When I brought Carson on as the CEO of my companies, he deposits so deeply into people's emotional banks that when it's time to make a withdrawal, the account's loaded up.
Yeah.
He's like, I've got an ask, but the person never receives it with anger because he's built up this amazing bank account of emotional gratitude.
That's the idea right there, right? Is building that relational equity, putting deposits in the relationship bank. And the key in what I've found, and you want to find this out a better way than you don't want to find this out the wrong way. You need those deposits. You need to be able to draw on those accounts. Those accounts need to be full before you draw on them, right? By the time you need to draw on those relationship accounts, if they're not full already,
overdraft.
It's too late. It's too late, right? So the lesson there is you need to be building and depositing in those key relationships every day, all the time, constantly. Not because, hey, I'm going to have to tap this someday, but because you build that so that someday when you do need it, it's there, right? And so having an exercise in the morning where you think about one of those relationships helps you value that relationship. It actually helps you value all relationships more, and that's what it does for me. I take it one step further too. So it's the gratitude in the morning, but then once a week, I choose one person. It's usually on a Saturday, and I call somebody out of the blue just to let them know that I appreciate them. It could be somebody I talk to regularly. Most of the time, it's a friend that I haven't talked to in a while.
Is this like kind of the second step of the formula?
It's kind of the second step.
So it's every single day is expressing gratitude for someone in your life to spread that love and that energy, and it's a
thinking
reminder
about that,
to you.
praying for that, being thankful. Just that's just you yourself.
And wishing well for them, it
identifying
sounds
that.
like.
Yes, absolutely.
And then the second part is to select someone once a week.
Choose one of those people.
Target them.
So this past Saturday, it was my buddy Jonathan, who I hadn't talked to in like 5 years, but he's one of those buddies that you guys have buddies like this, right? You haven't talked to him in 5 years, but you pick it right back up. It's like you didn't miss any time at all. 7-minute chat, best chat I had all week. 7 minutes. Just dude, I got no time, and I'm sure you're heading to soccer practice. You got no time, or whatever. I just want to let you know I haven't talked to you in forever, dude. And dude, I love you, man. You're my boy. It was no deeper than that, although it was, right? I wouldn't have done that if I hadn't have thought about him. That was on a Saturday morning. I thought about him, I think, on Wednesday. And I'm like, he's going to be my guy for this week, right? So it's so simple, but it's just having some purpose behind it. And it's saying, look, for me, it's morning time because that's my constructive time, right? So it's 4:30 in the morning. I know you were up this morning at 4:30 too.
Sorry, I was texting, but you were texting me at 2:30 in the morning.
I was up even earlier. Well, I'm off my time zone right now. So, but I'm 4:30 Eastern usually, right? Out running by 5 or something like that. And then I come back for that gratitude time, and then before anybody even wakes up. So that, I guess the key, number one is probably have your time. Number two then is use that time to be appreciative or thank or pray or meditate on one of those relationships. And then part three is go to somebody proactively and one of them and say, hey, I just want to let you know I appreciate you.
So I want to extract something else that I'm getting from this though,
Yep.
and I want to build on something that you're starting to talk about, which is you have to be investing in yourself. You have to get yourself ready before the day goes.
100%.
I mean, I believe that my day, everything that's important, I've got to have done by 9 a.m.
Yeah.
So when the day starts, I already know that no matter what transacts during the day, when I get home and I go to sleep, I'm going to reflect on my day and I'm going to say, successful.
Yep.
And for me, it's really weird. It's not what happens during the day that produces that feeling. It's, did I go to the gym and do something for my health today and eat healthy foods throughout the day?
Which you did, yeah.
Number two, did I take some time to be mindful, either by reading a book, being prayerful or meditative on behalf of myself, my family, or another person. It includes connecting with my wife and connecting with my children and sharing some life lessons with them, making some type of memory. Yeah. There's like this routine that I'm doing so that come 9 a.m., I'm like, wow, I feel like I already lived an entire day.
That's it.
A whole life. And so that gratitude is I think that's a really beautiful part of that morning routine, because I think part of what prepares you to keep your head on straight when you're going to face challenges as a business owner is, one, great, you've got the gratitude, but the other part is you've prepared yourself. You've woken yourself up and you're ready.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
Can I play devil's advocate here for a moment?
Yeah.
Y'all are rich. It's easy to be grateful for stuff when you live in a mansion, when you drive the cars that you do, when you have the shoes that you do. Out there is somebody listening to this that is feeling like, how can I be grateful for the situation that I'm in?
Well, I don't know if we can really answer that because Matt and I both started off rich. Right, Matt?
That's right. Silver spoons.
No, for you, Matt, what was that like? Like, when did this practice genuinely start? Was it after the wealth or before the wealth?
For me, I feel like I had an appreciation at some level before I was, quote, successful. I feel like after and I don't even want to say started making money, after I started taking on more responsibility, after I started growing teams, after I started creating more responsibility for more people around me, I felt like I had to increase my capacity for gratitude. I felt like I was appreciative for what I had before. Now I feel like I have to purposely work towards and work towards achieving true gratitude. So did I have it before? I think I did have an appreciation before. I think I've worked harder to grow that capacity, both because of my children and I want to show them, but also the growing number of people that I feel like are kind of like my family that I've got responsibility for, from my mastermind group to my consulting clients to just people I work with and people I come across in general. I feel like I've got to be able to expand. So I guess the answer is, did I have some before? Yeah. Do I have more now? And do I need even more now? Yeah, I think so.
I have these moments, it happens almost every week now, where I'll just have a kind of a little bit of an emotional moment, almost like a breakdown moment where I'm overcome by gratitude, but I'm overcome for how well I've been blessed. And I just have to pause and give thanks because I've received so much. And there are times when it's overwhelming for me. The truth is, I could make a tremendous argument about my life's hardships. I could talk about what it's like to have a handicapped child and the level of challenge that's brought into our family dynamic. I could talk about how hard it was for my wife and I had to learn in our marriage how to really get on the same page, and how bad it got before how good it got. I could talk about paying $1 million to defend myself in a case that I had done no wrong in. I could create all sorts of story of victimhood.
Yeah. What about all the people that rag on you on social media?
Yeah, the weird thing is I don't have time for it, and I just don't see it. I just choose not to put any energy into it. And part of that is just because of how blessed and grateful I am. I feel like in life, it's very easy to put one foot in the right direction and one foot in the wrong direction. Mm-hmm. And this is like, victimhood is the most powerful source of significance in today's world.
Wow.
Because I believe that the tolerance movement is all about giving into people's stories of woe is me and my oppression. Yeah. Well, I'm oppressed because I didn't come from any. Well, I'm oppressed because of the color of my skin. Well, I'm oppressed because I'm struggling with my sexuality. Yeah. And I will not be resolved until the world acknowledges me, until my boss and my coworkers and my friends and strangers acknowledge my oppression.
Which can never happen fully.
It's impossible.
Well, you always find another reason to be oppressed.
And so the levels of oppression are getting deeper and deeper. The micro nuances of distinction are increasing. And I'm like, guys, this is a downward spiral in a toilet, and it's going out to see through a sewer. This is bad. This is not good. But they're so caught up in it because they can be distracted by it. Yeah. Instead of just saying, wait a second. Like, I could also completely in this moment entirely overwhelm myself with all of my blessings, even if I think I have nothing.
Yeah.
Anyone listening to this, by the way, is listening through the internet, through a magic device, a little black box that connects to some source up in the heavens and within seconds bounces back and gives you access to worldwide information. When I was a kid, we had Go-Go Gadget, Inspector Gadget, and his daughter Penny had a book. His daughter Penny had the book that would tell him everything.
Yeah.
We have it too now. It's called WWW. It's Dr. Google. It's like we have everything.
Yep.
And so we're so insanely blessed, but you're going to get what you focus on.
Yeah.
And so I love what you're sharing here, because if you focus on how blessed you are, that's going to breed more blessings. If you focus on how disadvantaged you are, I promise you, you will find greater disadvantage.
And you can do that at any level. And we see examples of that, right? To your question, we see examples of that at every level. And, you know, Kris, you've traveled the world. I've traveled, you know, we've both worked with charities. I've started charities in India and some of the worst impoverished parts of Jamaica and Haiti, right? And I've seen people in Haiti that have less than nothing.
Yeah.
I watched a woman sweep dirt off a dirt floor, right? Because that was her space, right? So she's literally like sweeping dirt, but under it's just more dirt, right? But she was keeping her space, and I spoke with her and spent a little time with her. She's happy.
I know.
She's content, right? She's doing the things daily every day that have built relationships for her. She's got children. She's got great relationships with people around her that she depends on to live and that depend on her to live. And she's happy. Now, does she have anything? She has less than nothing. A broken broom sweeping dirt off of dirt. You know, that's where she lives. So at every level, we can have appreciation. We can be in gratitude. We can be completely out of it. That's the mindset. And something else you said, Kris, really resonated with me, because you asked about the social media haters, right? And so we're here on social media. A lot of people listening on social media, on Facebook, on Instagram, on TikTok, everything else.
So by the way, someone's going to drop a comment that says, I had mad respect before I saw this. You just lost a follower today.
Sure.
Someone's going to say that, by the way, after watching this.
Right.
And whenever it gets to that
it's not
comment,
even that controversial of a topic. It's gratitude.
it's
That's
like,
right.
oh,
Yeah,
you're,
exactly.
and they're going to say, wow, I thought you were real men. You know, after today's conversation, you know, I'm out.
You're just little girly men. We know this now. Yes. No, but those haters coming in, and he said, he asked, you know, does that bother you? And you said, no, it doesn't, right? And not because you've built up this giant thick skin where it's like, nothing can hurt me because I'm unstoppable and you can't hurt me, right? That's not your personality, right? You've got perspective, right? You decided before that nasty message ever even came in how you were going to respond to that nasty message or not respond to it, right? That decision was made way before that message came in on your DM today that told you you're the worst person in the world, right? And that happens to everybody that puts anything out there on social media to some extent, right? Now, your perception of it can either be, oh my goodness, I must be that person that they're saying, and look at a bunch of people saying it, and you've chosen to kind of go down that route, and now that's the straw that breaks the camel's back, and that crushes your spirit. Or it cannot even occur to you. It cannot even, like, it just, the way you reacted when he asked that question was water off a duck's back, right? It's like, does that bother you? Oh, no, it doesn't bother me. It's just boom, boom, boom. You know, like the correct perspective can shape it from this person's crushing me and I can't stand this person to either I don't even acknowledge or even know this person is there, or man, I actually feel for this person.
Yeah.
I'm in such gratitude that, and I don't mean that in a condescending way either, but when somebody like attacks me on social media or attacks one of my friends, especially people that are doing these amazing good things that are full of integrity, I feel sorry for the person doing the attacking, you know, but I only feel that way when I'm in gratitude, right? If I've let myself slip, or if my attitude's gone, or I'm feeling egocentric or selfish, and then that DM comes in that says I'm the worst in the world, then it starts to bother me, right? So it's all about that perspective. And so that is the filter through which we perceive, right? That attitude, being in gratitude or not, it literally can take something that's incoming and change the feed coming into your head, depending on how you feel.
You know, it's interesting. You look at the fact that we're a few years delayed on what should be the next stock market crash, or inflation just hit 8.5%. I believe it'll go double digit. Yeah. Most people aren't financially educated. So in a 5-year period of time, they're going to lose half their buying power. It's going to feel like they've lost half their wealth. Yeah. And guess what they're going to be talking about? They're going to complain about Russia and Biden. They're going to complain about the administration. They're going to complain about the cost of gas. They're going to complain. All the
reasons, except for
and you get what you get what you practice. So because they're practicing, this is, by the way, ingratitude. the cost of gas of this. If you want to just focus your energy on victimhood and complaining over and over and over again, then that is what you're going to get. So the weird thing is we're always getting what we want. And if you don't know what you want, just listen to yourself for 5 minutes, record yourself and play it back.
You'll talk about it
Whatever
all
you
day
complained about was a want because it was worthy of your time to think about and then complain about. If you ended up doing something good with your time, well, that will tell me also what your destiny is. If you want to have a destiny 10 years from now where you're far more successful and far happier, then you have to be looking for happiness and success today, because our destiny is formed by who we choose to be in this moment, who we choose to be the next hour. And so I think for me, I got to a point where I drew a line in the sand and I said, Kris, you spend some of your time complaining, you spend some of your time, in gratitude, you're either winning or losing, right? And it is this perception that you're talking about. And I said, draw a line in the sand. What would happen if you could only choose one side? You couldn't be both. You couldn't serve both masters. What would you do? And I thought about it. I'm like, shoot, I would hate to become that wrinkly, crusty, crotchety, barnacle person that does nothing but see that the glass is always less than half empty and someone's taking from me and everything's unfair.
Yep.
And I'm like, yeah, but do I really want to be that naive, gullible person that is always freaking Ned Flanders happy?
Blissfully ignorant.
Blissfully ignorant.
Between Homer and Flanders, I take Flanders.
And I think if I had to make a choice, I said, dude, I'm going to be that positive guy and let's see what happens. And I've made that my cup of tea for the last several years now. And it's weird. Bad things don't happen to me. Bad things don't happen to me. And when the pandemic hit, I got excited and I pulled my whole team together and I said, guys, we've got this opportunity. This is exciting. This is perfect. Here's how we're going to pivot. Here's what we're going to do. Because what people needed in that moment was leadership and strength of character and determination with intention of what we were going to do. And so, if anyone's listening today, part of what I'd share is 100% the message is about gratitude, but gratitude is more than just a moment. It's more than a formula. I think what I observe in you, Matt, is it's a way of life. And it will always accompany the person who sees benefits from positivity. And while that is very made fun of by a certain subset of people, those are the last people you'll ever want to take advice from on how to have a happy, fulfilled life.
Absolutely, 100%. What you just said too about the pandemic, the leadership that you brought to your people, that's what we did with our communities, right? At the same time, right? March of 2020, it was like, guys, guess what? The world just drew a line in the sand. We're either like making stuff happen or we're like shriveling up and dying.
Shutting doors.
Right? I mean, that's what's going on right now. And like, I remember like the day after they canceled the NBA, I'm like, oh, this got serious, right? When they canceled sports, I was like, oh, wait, what did they cancel? The NBA? Oh, and also all rest of sports worldwide indefinitely? Okay, this is getting big, right? I started 75 hard the next morning. The next morning. And I told my team and I'm like, I'm going for this. So I was like, I'm doing 75 hard, but that was just one. That was just like a totem, right? The rest of it was leaning into the relationships, and it was creating wins for my communities. It was getting tighter with my family. But what you just said though, and what you were able to do, Kris, and what I was able to do, what we did as leaders of our community early in that pandemic, early in 2020, we wouldn't have been able to do that had we not prepared for that before. Now, 2 years ago when you were doing some of the hard work, or 5 years ago when you were doing some of the hard work, inner work, and all along the way as you do the inner work, you didn't know, hey, in March, I got to get ready because in March of 2020, it's going to hit the fan and I'm going to have to be stronger than ever. You didn't know that. You didn't have that date marked on your calendar. I didn't either, right? Nobody saw that coming, right? Bitcoin went from 11K to 4K or whatever overnight. Like no one saw any of that coming. That was the craziest thing that's happened in our lifetime so quickly like that, right? But we'd prepared for that for years before that. I'm not saying we had all the answers. I'm not saying we were the perfect leaders, but we had committed long before March 2020 that when challenges come, we pull those bootstraps and we go forward even harder than we went before. You decided that before March of 2020. You decided that way before the pandemic happened. So that leadership came out. That's the difference between relational kind of transaction or relational equity and transactional equity. You had prepared yourself. You'd built relationships. You'd built a firm foundation. So when you needed it, it was there. What we saw conversely with a lot of the world in that same month and in the 2 years that have happened since then were people that had built no equity in relationships and no equity in themselves. They hadn't been working on themselves. They hadn't been building relationships.
Yeah.
And when March 2020 hit and they needed to pull on the bank account that should have had all that relational equity, there was nothing there. There was nothing there. Times millions of people.
Yeah.
Times can't leave your house. Times can't see each other's faces. Times watching TV 10 hours a day. Times having our kids at home all the time. And we could barely stand them for the 2 hours we had them at home when they were in school and in sports. Like all that stuff compounds. If you hadn't made those decisions before, if you hadn't prepared for that before, if you hadn't steeled yourself to be ready for that, you weren't ready for it, right? So what's coming next? I don't know. Do you know what's coming next?
I don't know, but I've been preparing.
Do you know what's coming next?
Food shortages.
I don't
But
know.
we won't get into that.
But here's what we know. Something's coming next.
Yeah.
Because life is going to bring challenges / opportunities. Life is going to bring change, right? And we know how to deal with change. When change happens, we see opportunities. We move forward. We decided that a long time ago, Kris, right? You and I decided that a long time ago. So whatever the next challenge is, we already know the answer. The answer is we're going to figure it out. We're going to move forward. We're going to be what we need to be for our people. Other people are not making that decision.
So let me ask you guys this, and this is kind of our lead up to wrap up this episode here on Have It All. Gratitude, it's a perspective thing. As it applies to business, it's like, how does that perspective shape your decisions and what you're doing? So the real question, though, that I have is, let's measure this.
Mm-hmm.
How much money would you attribute that you've earned based on having a gratitude perspective or an opportunity abundance mindset?
I mean, for me, it's millions of dollars. And I just think there was a time when I was very product oriented in my company, and I made the shift to be very client oriented, which is, what do they want? How do I serve them? Like, what does it look like for them to win, even if I'm not? And it was years ago that I just became obsessed. My team suggested it. You and Chris Milner approached me and you just said, we've got to find a way to measure our clients' happiness and fulfillment, satisfaction. And obsessing over that has also put me in a deep gratitude state where I'm just like, wow, these are the people that I'm serving that creates the reciprocation that allows the world to go round. And so, I mean, it's many, 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 many millions of dollars. But frankly, it's even a lot more than that. Because to your point, Matt, when someone loses their head, they can't do business anymore. Gratitude is just a really powerful tool for how you get in the space. I talk a lot about positivity. Combine gratitude, positivity, it's all trying to do the same thing. It's trying to put you in a space where you become indomitable, where you get in a positive energy, because positive people see solutions. Negative people always find problems. And when it hits the fan, you got to get into a realm of positivity so that you can find all the solutions at an even higher level. Well, gratitude is one of the most powerful conduits for that positivity.
Yeah. For me, I mean, same answer. It's been millions of dollars. To put an actual figure on it, I mean, in the last 3 years, we've tripled the size of our businesses, income, revenue streams. That was all through relationships. And the relationships were fueled and prioritized because of gratitude. So, yes, that's about the most direct answer I could give. I mean, I could say gratitude has tripled my income in the last 3 years.